Constructive Criticism is sponsored by Oasis Games. MTGOasis.com is the place to get cards for your next Magic event. Try them out with code CCMTG for 15% off of your first order, and use the code WouldThatBeGood for 4% off of every order. Want to support the show directly? Head on over to patreon.com/ccmtg to check out some awesome benefits and future goals for the show. Thanks for listening, and here's this week's episode of Constructed Criticism. Hello everyone, and welcome to a video on the Constructive Criticism YouTube channel. I'm Spencer, and today it's Wednesday Night Warrior, and we are talking about two cards in the same deck and what happened to make one win out over the other. So today we're going to be talking about Domri Chaosbringer versus Rhythm of the Wild, and try and figure out why is it that one got more hype than the other, yet the other is seeing more play. And I'm really excited to talk about it because I really love one of these cards. So don't forget that you can go to patreon.com/ccmtg to become a patron of Constructive Criticism. Starting at $1 a month, anything that you see fit is really appreciated. Any of those donations go a really long way, and it means the world to me. So check that out at patreon.com/ccmtg to support the show directly. Let's go over these two cards real quick. We have Domri Chaosbringer. It's a Planeswalker. It's 2, a red and a green for a Planeswalker that comes in with 5 loyalty, and it's a legendary Planeswalker Domri. It's +1. You can add a red or a green mana to your mana pool to if mana was spent on a creature spell with this, it gains Riot. So it doesn't have to be spent on a creature spell, but if you do, you get Riot. And then what Riot does is the creature enters the battlefield with a 1/1 counter or haste. It's -3 is you look at the top 4 cards of your library, and you may put up to 2 creature cards from among them into your hand. And it's -8 is you get an emblem at the beginning of each end step, create a 4/4 red and green beast token with trample. Rhythm of the Wild is an enchantment. It's 1, a red and a green. Creatures you control can't be countered, and non-token creatures you control have Riot. So when this set was spoiled, this newest set, right? Ravnica Legions was spoiled. Rhythm of the Wild got a lot of press. There were podcasts about it. When I posted my first Gruul list in our Constructed Critics group, people immediately asked me where my Rhythm of the Wilds were. And to me, I was never that high on Rhythm of the Wild. I think that the card is pretty win more, and we're going to get into why. So let's start with the mana cost, because that's the first thing that's different between these two cards, right? Rhythm of the Wild is 3 mana. Domri Chaosbringer's got 4 mana up in that top right symbol. And so because of that, that means you can go turn 1 Llanowar Elves, turn 2 Rhythm of the Wild, and you can't do that with Domri Raid or Domri Chaosbringer. And that's a big deal to a lot of players. In a lot of games, if you're on the play, that's really big. The thing is that Domri's plus ability also makes it have different mana costs in your curve. So play in different spots in your curve. So for example, you can play Domri as a pseudo 3 mana Planeswalker that you can double spell into. So whether it's on turn 4 by playing a 1-drop like a Shock or a Pelt Collector or a Llanowar Elves, or whether it's on turn 4 or turn 5 by playing something like a Growth Chamber Guardian. Those plays let you protect it really easily, or you could play it really late, right? Get to maybe play a 3-drop off of it, like a Gruul Spellbreaker or something like that. Its plus ability makes it 3 mana, just not off of a turn 1 Llanowar Elves. Now it doesn't have to do that, and let's talk about the modal difference here. So Rhythm of the Wild does one thing all the time, right? It's an enchantment. It's always what it's going to be. It's always what it's going to do. Domri doesn't work that way, right? I can use Domri to buffer my life total by making my opponents have to pressure it. I can use Domri to get card advantage with its minus ability, and man, does it work really well in those Gruul decks, right? So often you can just minus Domri again, and you're up a ton of cards after a couple of pluses. And that's just not the case with Rhythm of the Wild. Yesterday on the stream over on twitch.tv/ccmtg, I had an opponent play top deck our Rhythm of the Wild versus me. And if they had top deck Domri, I might have actually been in trouble. But because it was a Rhythm of the Wild, they just played it and kind of had to pass the turn. Whereas with Domri, with all the mana that they had, they could have easily started, protecting Domri, making the game about something that it wasn't about at that time. And Rhythm of the Wild just doesn't do that. Rhythm of the Wild says, I'm going to go all in and attack you right away. So if all you're trying to do is be hyper aggressive, maybe there's times where Rhythm of the Wild is good. The thing is that Gruul's already just really good at doing that. And because it's already really good at doing that, it doesn't need a card like Rhythm of the Wild to do it even more. That doesn't mean that there's not going to be situations one day where Rhythm of the Wild can't come out of the sideboard and be a good card. It just means that it has to be in specific metagames where you have to be faster and you need that your creatures can't be countered apart in the same matchups. And the thing is that Domri is good in those matchups and more, right? Domri giving your creatures riot just like Rhythm of the Wild does, lets you attack into things, but also lets you refill if they deal with those threats. And that's the key difference on why Domri you're seeing more of in the sideboard than Rhythm of the Wild, and even in some main decks like the one that I've been touting. I think that Domri does a better job of just being a card that has to be dealt with, because Rhythm of the Wild is a card that you're losing card advantage when you play this card. You are playing a card that does nothing without other things. And I don't think that people realize that enough. They expected to get their Incubation Druids going off, their Growth Chamber Guardians going off, and things like that. And the truth is that if I don't have Llanowar Elves, I'm gonna and I don't have another 2-drop, I'm just gonna play my Growth Chamber Guardian. I'm not gonna take a turn off, do nothing on turn 2, so that I can go off with Rhythm of the Wild if I don't have that moment in the game. And that's a big deal. That's a lot of lost tempo that Rhythm of the Wild has that Domri doesn't present, because you get to fit Domri into your curve when you can, and also because if you don't get anything out of it, you just hit that -3 button and you're immediately back up cards. So when we think about kind of how a game might play out outside of those things, I think that the real arguments are like, is Karn better than Domri Raid? Is Vivian Reed better than Domri in these games? And those are the things that you have to ask yourself, not whether Rhythm of the Wild is good. And it's really funny that we got to a point where Rhythm of the Wild got the hype, right? Because people immediately started thinking of all the things that you could do with Rhythm, and not really the cost in doing those things. The thing is that I don't really want Incubation Druid in my in my Gruul aggro decks. It doesn't fit. And because of that Rhythm of the Wild loses a lot of its luster, right? And the Growth Chamber Guardian play pattern that we already talked about also made it so Rhythm of the Wild was less appealing. So for those reasons, I think Domri really wins big. If they don't deal with it, eventually it could ultimate, or it's just going to take over the game with card advantage, or it's just going to fit into your mana curve at a better time and do more for you each and every game. So if you've got Rhythm of the Wilds in your deck, I highly recommend you switch them out for those Domris, give it a try, and I think that Domri wins this competition really easily. So that's it for this week on Wednesday Night Warrior. I really appreciate everybody who's watching. Check out my boy Domri. He has got it going on. Thank you so much. I'm going to see you guys all next week with another video on the Constructed Criticism YouTube channel.